So something absolutely huge was just announced just a few hours ago, literally today, by Microsoft. This is September 25th. Microsoft has announced that they are actually pulling their cloud-based services that were supporting or serving the Israel Ministry of Defense during the very big Gaza war that is taking place and has been taking place for almost 2 years now. Microsoft has been heavily criticized for this recently. This even led to quite a big boycott, and yeah, this is a very big conclusion to all of this. I did not think this was going to happen, but Microsoft apparently really took this serious, or at least the blowback, the possible blowback to all of this, they were taking serious. They wanted none of it, and yeah, they have ended services. So if you didn't know, these claims that Microsoft was providing service for the Israel Ministry of Defense came about a month ago from this article by The Guardian. The big claim in the title there was that Israel was relying on Microsoft Cloud for expansive surveillance of Palestinians. Now, essentially, this all revolves around something called Azure. This is something that is basically a huge Microsoft cloud-based service. And basically, the claim was that Israel's Ministry of Defense was using Microsoft's Azure cloud service to store a massive amount of data, specifically kind of like surveillance data, like calls, phone calls that apparently Israel had intercepted from Palestine. So this was very big, and as I said, this led to quite a bit of backlash. There was a boycott that was started. People said, we should start banning or boycotting at least Microsoft products. And well, that leads us to today. This kind of came out of nowhere. At least I think it came out of nowhere. This is actually from the Microsoft website. This is a blog post that's just called Update on Ongoing Microsoft Review. It sounds very vague, but it is specifically about all of this stuff in the Guardian article. This is written by Brad Smith, basically the vice president of Microsoft. So he starts off by ripping the band-aid. He says, "I want to let you know that Microsoft has ceased and disabled a set of services to a unit within the Israel Ministry of Defense. I know many of you care about this topic, and I share more about this decision below." And yeah, he does give quite a bit of details. He says, "Let me first provide some context. As I said to you in recent weeks, Microsoft is not a government or a country. We are a company. Like every company, we decide what products and services to offer to our customers." And this kind of addresses one of the criticisms that people had on Microsoft providing this service in a war. This is something where Microsoft, they're a company, they're not a country, and so if they are providing this sort of aid, it's kind of like unregulated. And some were making allegations that this is almost like a nation providing another nation military aid, only that Microsoft is not a nation, so it's kind of this weird sort of situation. So I think that was Brad trying to acknowledge that and saying that no, we don't want any part of that. So he goes on to say, "As we publicly announced on August 15th, this was about a month ago," he said, "we decided to undertake a review of allegations that appeared in an article published on August 6th by The Guardian." And again, he brings up those claims that I just mentioned that were made in The Guardian article. Now he talks about a couple principles they were abiding by in this review, and he says at no point has Microsoft accessed the Israel Ministry of Defense's customer content. That, I believe he's referring to the alleged Palestinian intercepted phone calls, that sort of thing. He says, rather, the review has focused on Microsoft's own business records, including financial statements, internal documents, and email and messaging communications, among other records. And he goes on to say, while our review is ongoing, we have found evidence that supports elements of the Guardian's reporting. This evidence includes information relating to Israel Ministry of Defense's consumption of Azure storage capacity in the Netherlands and the use of AI services. So want to point out he's not confirming 100% of the claims of the article, but this is big. He is confirming that yes, some of it is true, that they found evidence that is consistent with what was reported in the Guardian's article. So he says, therefore, we have informed the Israel Ministry of Defense of Microsoft's decision to cease and disable specified Israel Ministry of Defense's subscriptions and their services, which include their use of specific cloud storage and AI services and technologies. We have reviewed this decision with the Israel Ministry of Defense and the steps we are taking to ensure compliance with our terms of service, focused on ensuring our services are not used for mass surveillance of civilians. Yeah, that's definitely the big one that Microsoft wants to avoid. It's very much, though, worth pointing out that they are saying that they are ceasing replacing and disabling some specific Israel Ministry of Defense subscriptions and specific services, not necessarily all of them from what it sounds like. But Brad does conclude to say that the review is still ongoing and they will share more information in the coming days and weeks. So we will see what actually comes of that. But yeah, overall, very big stuff. I'm very surprised that Microsoft has actually announced this. And you know what? I gotta say, good for them for actually doing a review and really following through. I didn't know that they announced this last month that they were going to do a review to address these claims made by The Guardian, but yeah, good for them for following through, and it doesn't sound like this is, well, it's not the end, actually, of this review. We will see if there is anything else that comes out after even more of a review.